Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Sarah Louise and I wanted to make a video today that's probably a repetition of a video I've made so many times over the years, but it's one of those topics that I feel, you never outgrow because excuse me, a lot of things I feel on this journey, you outgrow, you change your way of thinking, you come to a different way of thinking, and I think that's actually really healthy. I think sometimes people get pigeonholed into things and people get almost upset or angry if they change their mind and they pivot, but I think this is natural. This is part of evolving and growing and just sharing your journey as you go. But there's one thing that I'll always come back to, and it's this lion, eagle, push-pull, avoidant, anxious, and it has different names. And I think when I first started the journey, the sort of twin flame journey, it came to me as the lion and the eagle, and it came to me through Leora's teachings. And then, I realized later that it very closely links up with anxious and avoidant tendencies and attachment styles, which is taught through psychology. And I am a big believer that, you don't have to approach the spiritual journey. To me, the spiritual journey is, I guess it's the unseen, right? I keep thinking, what is spiritual? And I guess it's the unseen. It's the unmaterial. It's the felt experience. And it's sort of taking responsibility for your experience through your inner self and acknowledging there's more to the world than the material things as they show up around you. And I believe that, that you can do it through psychology, you can do it through spirituality. I think at some point you kind of have to dip into both, is my personal belief. But, there's elements in both that are very, very useful in evolving. Psychology isn't useless. It shouldn't be written off, in my opinion. And there's lots of interesting, important things to be taken from it. And a lot of them just sync up with the spiritual world anyways, with different names. So I first got into this, like I said, through Leora's teachings, where she teaches about the lion and the eagle. And the idea was, unfortunately, Leora is no longer with us. So I don't know how much her teachings have really continued. And I don't know how many of us actually kind of got them. So I think I had 2 sessions with her and only one really felt useful. But the book and the manual that I got, was something that I come back to, and it was just a short manual, and I come back to it probably every year and I read it and I get more out of it and I see it in a slightly different way. And as you evolve through your journey and you actually properly integrate it, because it's one thing reading it, like the minute I read this book, I believed it. I read it and I knew it was true. Sometimes you do that. You read something and it's true and you agree with it and you resonate with it, but you haven't fully integrated it. And as you fully integrate it, it's like you see the teachings on different levels each time, right? Because they're more integrated in you and you're like, oh yeah, I really feel it now. Like I don't just get it, I feel it. And so her book on the lion and the eagle is basically, it's the runner chaser. That's another name for it. And it's the idea that to be in a union and to collapse our inner duality and to stop being at war with ourselves, she says that, the world outside of us, when it's at war, it's because there's a war inside of ourselves. And as you can see, society is so, there's so much war going on inside of everybody, so triggered. And I do wonder if it's a bit of a societal awakening now I look back, because when I think about it, all of us guys that went on the twin flame journey like 10 years ago or whatever, we all got really, really highly triggered for a period, right? I know I did. It was like I was more sensitive than I'd ever been somehow. And I do wonder if maybe this is what's going on with society, where they just have to be triggered to the sort of extreme to face their shadow. But the idea with the lion and the eagle is that to collapse this duality and to come into union with yourself and then have the best likelihood of coming into union with your twin flame, that you have to look at the ways in which you control your outer surroundings through your energy. And you either pull back your energy or you push forwards your energy, right? And one was the pull back was called the eagle and the push forward was called the lion. But you can give them other names. You can call them the anxious attachment pulls back, and the avoidant attachment pulls back, and the anxious, chases and tries to fill the gap. And the idea is that when you've got this pattern inside of you, and it's funny because you see some people out there and they're called secure attachment, but they don't really seem to have evolved. They just seem to have been like that, and they don't really seem to have this deep spirituality. And I do think that something actually gets activated in you to really, really see your polarity. And I don't necessarily think that it's be like a behind thing, like some people like to say it is, you know, like that you are less healed. I actually sometimes wonder if secure attachment people, it's just not their lifetime to sort of deal with this, and they just want to have like a more easy life. I don't know, I can't prove that, but it does feel like you're awoken to something much deeper and a real deep level of self-inquiry when you are triggered, right, in this way, and you enter into this push and pull dynamic. And this is how it always ends. You know, every relationship that you get into is toxic. And obviously to begin with, you start saying, oh, I've met someone toxic. He just ghosted me. He just ignored me. He this, he that. And you just project it 100% on your outside world. And then you meet a few, or you keep getting the same experience. You're like, maybe, you know, I'm the factor here. Maybe I have to change myself. And that's sort of a realization, which is true. You know, we're tolerating it, right? Because if we didn't have that, like, sort of broken, for want of a better word, I'm not saying we're broken, but if we didn't have that sort of like not very secure attachment style and someone pulled away, you wouldn't go trying to fill the gap. You'd just be like, oh, okay, they're not meant for me. And you might cry for a bit and then you would move on. Anyone that's sort of been through that twin flame experience, or a strong soul connection, or just like a very, very toxic relationship, often you feel, I know I did, that like crazy pulling to that person, and you almost feel like a physical pull to them. You feel like you can hear their thoughts, you know what they're thinking. You feel it's like a constant thread between you, right? And I do believe it's the same whether it's karmic, whether it's twin flame, you know, all of these sort of higher level or very strong spiritual connections, I think, have these kind of links. And you just feel that insane connection and you just can't drop it. You're obsessed, you can't let it go. You think, well, I let people go in the past, why can I not let this person go? And it is like they activate something in you. So I don't think that it's just your normal anxious avoidant. I do think there's soul connections that trigger us to grow and evolve on our, to really deepen our connection and knowing to ourselves. And, you know, we're kind of activated by these people 100%, because I didn't have such a problem letting people go until this experience, when it's impossible. You literally feel like a cabbage. You feel like you're unable to do anything but think about this person, feel the cord to this person, feel the attachment. And it's kind of like an anxious avoidant attachment and relationship on steroids, because it's like you can feel one another's energy. And because you're sort of more attuned to energy, you can suddenly feel the pullback. Whereas I think in more sort of 3D relationships, it's like you have to actually be ignored. Whereas once your sort of empathic spiritual channels open up, you can feel the person pull back, and they might not even have done anything. They might not have acted in any way different, but you feel the pullback, and it kind of triggers your own pushing forwards. Now, all of these are done as a way for us to feel safe and in control of our energy. And it's just simply that some people do it by pulling back and some people do it by pushing forwards. And generally what's going to happen is we're going to evolve these relationships and we're going to move on to somebody else, or we're going to heal together, right? And we're going to push, pull, until both people can talk about it. And the sort of key change here is when you can talk about it with your partner. Because I think back to the beginning, I tried to go back to my old self because I'm in such a different place now than I was. But I know that this kind of like awareness of this was really what sprung me forward so much on my journey. And it really was sort of that missing key. And all the manifesting in the world, I'm sorry, but I really think this is something that has to be given some attention. Not moaning and whining and focusing on your shadow all the time, because I agree that's not healthy. But I do think we have to look at this and learn to neutralize that energy and to stop chasing and fill in the gap. Some of the really embarrassing things that I did, and I'm so embarrassed, and I was way too old to be doing this really, but you know, I used to do things like change my profile picture all the time on WhatsApp, so they would just see my picture and be reminded of the connection, and see how happy I was and moving on with my life, or you know, creating stupid stories hoping they would see. This is chasing, 100% chasing. It's chasing basically if you're not able to focus on your own life. and you're over analyzing, you're over ruminating about what the other person is doing when you're not speaking. If you can't not speak to your person and all you do is think about them, talk with your friends, women are particularly bad for this, I wonder what they're thinking, I wonder if they're going to message me. Then you run to the little psychics and have your little psychic binge, which I used to do. I've done all this stuff, by the way, I'm not calling it out, I did all of it, all the really awful stuff you could do on the beginning of the twin flame journey. I did it. I chased, crazy amount of chasing, and that wasn't me. I'd never chased anyone before, not like openly like that. I was very like cold. I was more the pullback person really, but energetically a chaser. And this is another thing that Leora will say. She's like, once you've healed one of your wounds, like, you've healed your more dominant one, like your eagle or your lion, so your chaser or your runner, then you'll realize that your denied shadow is the opposite, and that you had both in you all along. And I mean, it's really obvious for me. I could see it so clearly. And it also depended who I connected to, which one I would fall into, and if they started to really pull forward to me. I really felt both of those energies, and the opposite energy was like a panic attack. You would feel like anxiety, and it was this weird thing, like you just wanted to go and date like loads and loads of people, which I'd never done in my life. I didn't obviously do it, but it was just like this thought of like, oh my God, I just want to be free, and I don't want to be like trapped, and it was just this like massive anxiety and fear, and I just couldn't reply to messages. And so I actually felt both sides, and I felt exactly how bad it is to be the runner and how bad it is to be the chaser. I think being the chaser was a bit worse because it was a bit more obsessive. Like the runner, you just get like overwhelmed, but then you could switch off for a bit, whereas I felt like the chaser, it's like you were just constantly obsessed and you couldn't do anything with your life other than obsess over this person that didn't want to talk to you or engage with you, or was like hot and cold with you, or what have you. There's all different polarities of that. And so it's all about this basically trying to stay in control. And a union is like an absence of control, right? And I've talked about this a little bit with the red pill and all kinds of things. A lot of this is wanting to stay in control. I've been hurt before, so this time I'm not getting married. This time I'm going to stay in control. And the thing is, there is no real thing as control, like we're spiritual beings. We're just having a human experience. Like you can't really control it, but we think we can as humans. And we do all these behaviors to stay in control of ourselves. I definitely know that I have both sides. I have this really strong polarity where I really struggle to rely on a man. It's very strong in me. I always feel like I need a get out, like I can just leave the relationship and escape very easily if I start to get treated badly But, I'm not saying that you shouldn't leave if you get treated badly. And I do also think it is good as a woman to have your ducks in a row so that you are independent on your own. I really believe in that. Not everyone does, but I really believe in that. I think it can save you from being in all kinds of miserable relationships. And I just think it's amazing as a woman. And I'm so glad that I live in a time I can do that. But, I know that I can take it to the extreme. And this is just talking about me. Obviously, we've all got our own journey. We've all got our slight different variations around this. But I know that I always only feel safe in a relationship if I can get out really quick. If I'm cheated on or I'm mistreated or they become too controlling of me. And when I say controlling, it's not what you wear. It's if they start sort of taking away my freedom. And I don't feel this free spirit anymore. I feel like I have to get out and have to get out immediately and I have to go really quickly. And I always have that sort of 1 foot out the door thing. But I also was a massive chaser as well, energetically, where I would obsess and all day I would think about this person. So you have to remember that runner chaser isn't always on actions. Actually, from the outside, other than my first connection, which I did really chase, like the sort of twin flame awakener, I didn't really chase people physically, actually. I was very good at like not messaging, doing no contact. But the reason it didn't often work for me back then, but it would work for me immediately now, is because my energy didn't remove at all. So even if I wasn't messaging, all I was doing was like thinking of ways to get this person to chase me. So I'd be reading blogs on how to get them to chase you. I'd be doing all these manifesting techniques. I'd be talking to psychics. I'd be bending my friends' ears off, like wondering what this guy was thinking, what he was doing, whether he was going to message me, whether he had feelings for me, why he wasn't responding. And I'd be changing my profile picture all the time. And, you know, nothing looks more desperate than that. No, you're not fooling anyone. Like when you put these stories up and you're changing your profile picture, it's not like anyone actually thought, oh, wow, she's so busy and out there, like living her life, sat there changing her picture all the time. They obviously just know that you're desperate, right? I say that with the most love. As someone that's done it, you know, nothing is more obvious than that, right? Because when you're actually out there living your life and you're really busy, you don't have time for that kind of thing. I haven't changed mine now for about 3 years because I don't have like a chaser energy anymore. And maybe not that long, but not for a long time. So the idea anyway is that if we want to be in a union, we have to let go of control. So we have to let go of our natural tendency to like pull back to feel safe and push forwards to feel safe. And Sorry, I keep running down my my space because I need to massive clear out from doing all my travel videos. But basically, the premise is that we need to balance our energy. So we're not trying to fill that gap by chasing somebody, and we're not like pulling back in fear, you know, and it's always trying to gain control. And she was so right with that. It's always this trying to stay in control of your outer experience by reacting, you know, energetically or physically. And, you know, our inner, what is within, so without. So if we want to stop having people run away from us, or we want to stop having people chase us and we feel overwhelmed and we just want to get away, then it's our own energy that we have to balance, not just like moan about the person or say they're a runner. And I think this was one of the most toxic things of the twin flame journey, is just calling people a runner. I mean, things have changed now. People have wisened up on this, but it used to be like they're a runner and you basically had no choice but to sit and wait for them to come back. Well, you've got lots of choice. You can work on yourself and they might not even be the person. You might just completely go off them when you've actually healed. However crazy and intense you feel right now. Or, you know, they'll come back, or whatever, you're going to feel better and you're actually going to have your life back. So it's like a win. There's no real loss from self-work. And I know for myself, I'm at the point now where I just myself in my own life that I'm at this point where I just don't really have a chasing vibe within me. I can't do it anymore, you know? If somebody backs off, if my partner backs off, then I'm just like, well, you know, I'll wait, you know, we're not meant to be, or I'll wait for them to come back. Or you just communicate, right? Because you're not so afraid anymore. And I do remember kind of what it's like to be so afraid. Like when I expressed my feelings to somebody, I was so afraid of rejection. And I was so desperate to stay in control that it took like 2 counselors, 3 of my friends writing and rewriting the text. I wasn't even doing it face to face. I was doing it in text. This was how big are fears and blocks. And you know what, this journey, it was so horrible. It was so painful, but I don't really have like a big rejection fear anymore. It doesn't really bother me that much. I just, you know, if somebody doesn't want to be with me, I'll just move on. But it just wasn't like that for me. My rejection wound was so strong that the amount it took just to text someone, it was never even my own words. It was like 3 other friends that like checked it and rewrote it. I mean, no wonder nobody really like got back to them. It wasn't even me. But that was how far I would go, you know, not to be rejected. And this journey, it like purges you, you know, it purges you and forces you to face all this stuff. And, you know, a lot of the time, the guidance, I feel, you say, I followed the guidance and I got rejected, or they didn't get back to me. Like, why on earth was I drawn to do that if I wasn't going to get a good result? Like, why did you bombard me with signs? Why did I feel it so strongly? And I believe it's because you have to evolve, you know, like it's through getting rejected all those times, because I just used to avoid it completely. I was so avoidant. So I never got rejected because I never really gave anyone the chance. And as soon as I started giving them the chance, I just got painfully rejected so many times. But it made me stronger and it made me like stop having to hide in a shell of myself from these fears. And that's the point. We're meant to break through the fears. So if you still have fears of being rejected, you're probably going to be pushed to overcome them, to get through them, to message and be rejected, because that's how we become healed from fear of rejection. We don't become healed from fear of rejection by only being accepted. We get healed by fear of rejection by not fearing it anymore, right? So you have to be okay with it. But yeah, we have to come to this point of balance. And I think I was just saying, and I got cut off and I lost my train of thought, but basically, yeah, we need to come to more of a neutral space within, so we're not crazy oversensitive and reactional every time someone pulls their energy back a little bit or pushes forwards. That's our own work. But we can also get to a point where we're not so afraid anymore, and that's where I was going to with that. And we can communicate these things. And if you're with someone understanding that's ready to burst through their walls too, you'll have conversations on it, and that's how the sort of healing begins. Nothing wrong with being in an anxious avoidant partnership if you can communicate and it's getting somewhere and you're growing together. Nothing wrong with that. It's just obviously very, very toxic if it's like this. And whilst it's healing, I do think it's good to step back for a bit and work on yourself, because chasing somebody isn't really going to get you anywhere. You have to look at, why am I chasing? I can't give you a magic pill. I can't give you one fix-all technique or method. I tried loads of things and eventually I just sort of healed that element and I'm just a totally different person. There's still many other things that I need to work on, but that particular runner-chaser dynamic, the difference is just incredible. I just don't feel any kind of like desperation when I feel someone's energy pull back, and it's so fantastic. And it's like you have your life back and you can do stuff and you can focus on stuff and you kind of feel like a normal person again. And it is possible and you can heal yourself, and that's when you're putting yourself in the best likelihood to have honest, conversation with your connection and to get into, a nice spiritual harmonious union or whatever you believe in. I don't necessarily love the twin flame label, but I don't hate it either. I'm just somewhere where sometimes I think it can do more harm than good, but I don't also disbelieve in it. So yeah, I hope everyone's good. Sorry it's a bit disjointed. My thing is so full because I've taken so much travel stuff yet again, and it just creeps up on me and fills up. But I hope everyone is good, and yeah, let me know how you sort of healed your lion and eagle. Are you still in it? And yeah, chat soon. Bye.